Hello, this is Allie with the Perception Trainers, author of The Perception Diet, and today I want to talk about how to handle it when the universe slows you down. Alright, so in our very first Patreon meeting, we actually had a conversation about this, and I really wanted to kind of take what we had talked about in there and share it with you guys. So, what do I mean when I say when the universe slows you down? So this can look like many different things. So for people out there who really follow astrology and kind of believe in that whole thing, like during a Mercury retrograde situation where, technology slows down, communications are a little bit, tend to be a little bit broken, or, just the things that usually take you 10 minutes, take you 30 minutes, when you get, in the slowest line at the checkout every single time, you hit every red light, like that kind of thing. When the universe is not, so essentially when your life is not flowing the way that you're used to. This can also show up with you just not having the energy that you're used to having. Like you just don't have the enthusiasm. Usually you can kind of like get yourself to do like 20 things in a day, and then for some reason you hit these periods of time where you feel like doing 2 things in a day is way too much. This can even come through physical illness, like when you hit something that slows you down physically, or it's like one physical thing after another, and you just can't seem to kind of figure your way out of it or what's going on. And then like I say, like this usually presents itself with just things in life kind of shaking out the way they shake out, and it not being what you expected, it not being as smooth as you expected, or opportunities fall through, or things just don't happen, things don't come together, and you're essentially not making the progress in life that you think you should be making or that you want to be making. Okay, so the reason that I want to talk about this is because literally for the last 3 years of my life, I have been in a cycle like this. Okay, so I want you to know that, like, basically from the time I was born to, like I say, like 3 years ago, I was like a super hardcore doer, right? Like, literally from like kindergarten onwards, I was like doing kindergarten, I was in clubs after school, I was in piano lessons, I always had a million things on the go. And then, through junior high, I was like in every play, in every kind of, I was in dance, I was in all these things, plus school, plus friends. Then in high school, you add even more things. I was in every musical theater show, every dance show, every drama. I had a part-time job, I went to school full-time, I did choir, I did like all that stuff, right? Like I always had a million things on the go. And then after I graduated, it was the same kind of thing. I had a job, I was going to school, I was taking care of my household, I was, exercising, meditating, keeping up with all of these things. And I had a life where I was just running like a chicken with my head cut off all the time. And I was just used to being very, very productive and very, very busy and having a lot of things on the go and a lot of things that I did in the day. And that was like what life was to me. And then, like I say, 3 years ago we moved to Thailand, and that's when things started to shift. We moved to Thailand, and I got to this place where, in Thailand, things really, like a lot of the life maintenance stuff that I had resented in life got taken away, which was really great. Like just day-to-day things just weren't as hard or laborious. And I didn't have friends, I didn't have a social life, I didn't have a whole bunch of things that I was used to having in life over in Thailand. So I really kind of only had my job, and that's when things started to sort of slow down. And then we moved to Montreal, and I ended up leaving my job and taking a new job. And again, so I'm working from home, and my new job was only part-time, and Marcus, my partner, was going to work. And then so even less social life, less things to do. And like I say, so all of a sudden I'm only kind of working 4 hours a day, but I was still like really, so in that time I started to really pursue like spirituality, and I was like meditating like 2 hours a day and like practicing yoga, and like, so I took the kind of like do mentality that I had in my 3D world up until then, and I took that and I turned it in, right? And I started to be like this do person on the inside. And I was kind of obsessed with like healing and enlightenment and expanding my consciousness and starting my own business, starting my own company, and really wanting that to take off. And I was just like, you know, again, applying that same kind of attitude, that do attitude that I had in my life before that, to my spiritual practices and all that stuff. And then we moved to San Francisco, and it became illegal for me to actually have a job. So I had to quit the job that I was working, and I was just kind of working on my own stuff. And that's when I started making YouTube videos and all this stuff. But like I say, by the time we got to San Francisco, so this was like kind of like 6 months down the line of this whole like slow down thing, I was like, I didn't even recognize my own life. I didn't recognize myself. Like, I just had nothing to do. Like, literally, I had just nothing on my plate. My days were completely just kind of whatever I wanted to do. I had no responsibilities. I had no commitments. I had no friends. And kind of in the space that I was in, like, I know that I could have pursued relationships in San Francisco. I know I could have pursued lots of things, but I just didn't have the energy. Really, I just didn't have the energy. I wanted to be productive. I wanted to be doing stuff. But, like, I got to the point where just, like, you know, going for groceries, doing my yoga, doing my meditation, and, like, writing a blog post was, like, that was, like, a big day. And so, like I say, I didn't, like, recognize myself. I was just like, who is this person who is so, like, not doing anything? And I really resisted and resented this period of time in my life. And I want to just kind of put that out there at first, because I know that when life slows us down for like a short period of time or a long period of time, I think the first thing that tends to come up with that is resistance, right? We don't like it. We don't want to slow down. Because when we do, and I'm telling you this from personal experience, right? This may not be the case for you, but for me, it was like, when I slowed down, it was like, oh, like all my emotions, everything that I didn't like about myself, everything I didn't like about life, like all this stuff just like kept coming and coming and coming, and I just like didn't have a distraction, right? So then I kind of started to get sort of wise to it, and again, became dedicated to just learning to sit and be with what was coming up. So like I say, for like a year and a half, I really worked to like fix it, right? I wanted to heal myself, and I was doing all of these like healing modalities, and like maybe this meditation or that meditation or this chant or that chant or this thing or that thing. And eventually I just got, like I said, I kind of exhausted myself, and I ran out of energy, and I started to just kind of sit with stuff and just be with it and let things come up, and start to just witness my stories and witness all of this stuff that I had going on inside of me. And like I say, I ran out of modalities. I ran out of things to do, and so I just was left with just kind of being with it and not doing anything about it. And this, I think, is when the magic started to really happen. So like I say, like I'm kind of a slow learner at this. Obviously, I was a very slow learner at this, because for the first year and a half of this like slowdown period, I was just completely in resistance to it. I was trying to fix myself. I was, like I say, I took that crazy do mentality that I had on the outside, and I turned it in, and I just was like doing all this spiritual stuff and all this physical stuff and all this like stuff on all these levels to try and like heal myself and change myself and do all this stuff. And like I say, like get rid of these painful emotions, get rid of this shadow, get rid of these bad habits, get rid of these negative thoughts, get rid of this, just like all of this stuff, right? And like I say, and then eventually I got to a place where I just stopped trying to get rid of it. I stopped trying to fix it. I stopped trying to really do anything about it, and I just was in it. And like I say, that's when the magic started to happen, is when I stopped resisting the nothing really going on in my life. And like I say, I really think that I got there because I just got exhausted. I exhausted myself, and life didn't change, right? And so like I don't think that this was really like an accomplishment on my part. It was really that I just tired myself out enough that I just like quit trying. And not in a way that I quit trying like I gave up on life, but I just was like, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm experiencing, and it doesn't really matter what circumstances we change. It doesn't really matter what we do or what we don't do. It's like, this is where I'm at. And then that's when this whole slowdown thing really started to like change my life in the best way possible. Okay, so then by the time we got to Mexico, which was where we were for the last kind of 8 months, I was just like learning, like I say, I had learned by that time how to just sit and be with my negative emotions, how to sit and be with my negative thoughts, how to sit and be with all of this painful stuff that I've been trying to fix and resist and not like about myself for so long, that I eventually got to this place where I could be with it and be comfortable with it. And then I think what happened is I started to kind of develop a level of just no longer labeling it as a bad thing. I stopped getting scared of those negative emotions and those negative thoughts, and I stopped thinking of them as like true. I think is like really at the end of the day, I stopped believing those stories. I just started to get to a place where I didn't believe my own negative stories anymore. And I started to see that a lot of the pain that I was in and a lot of the suffering that I was, in, even though my life was just like really easy and nothing was really going on, was because of these stories I was telling myself and believing. And the only way that I got to that realization was through stopping trying to change the stories, stopping trying to fight the stories, stopping trying to make them wrong or bad or stupid or anything like that, or and even realizing how much I was holding on to them, right? That these painful stories were true, and here's why they're true, and here's all the things I need to do to heal from it, and da 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 da. And like when all that stuff stopped working, I was like, maybe this is just what it is. And then, like I say, that is where this kind of magic of like, no, this isn't who I am. These are stories. And I started to be able to see life in a different way. And that was all because I got so slowed down and so exhausted from trying to fix the stories that I just started to be able to look at them for what they were. And they were just stories. And then from there, because of the resting and the not having a whole lot going on in my life, I was able to kind of start to see beyond the stories. And so it's not so much that I'm like, these stories were just stupid and wrong and bad. It's like, I respect those stories. And I respect myself, and I respect the person that I was believing those stories. And I respect the person that I was concocting those stories. And I respect the person that I was holding on to those stories, because of course, right? I made up a whole bunch of things about pain and suffering and what I'd been through to help try and protect myself from it. And again, that was a story, but when I sit with that now, I can see that it's like, of course I wanted to protect myself. Of course I didn't want to feel that stuff. Of course I didn't want to believe the painful things that I was telling myself about what had happened, right? But I had to get to a place where I was so exhausted from trying to fix it that I could just sit with it and see it for what it was, which was just my innocence trying to protect me from a world that didn't even really exist. Okay? So this is kind of the sacred medicine of the slowdown, is that it gets you to a place where you get so sick of hearing your own story that you start to say, like, what if this story isn't true? And then that's where you can kind of expand and grow. So it's like, it's not even that the story isn't true, it's just that it doesn't I don't have to look at it the way that I've always looked at it. I don't have to look at my pain the way that I've always looked at my pain. And the freedom is not that I'm, rescued from it or healed from it or anything like that. It's the freedom is I can now look at everything that's happened to me as something that was helping me to develop into my ultimate potential. And that everything that is ever going to happen to me is going to be something that's helping me to develop into my ultimate potential, if I choose to do that. And if I don't choose to do that, then it's an awesome story. You see what I'm saying? And so this period of slowdown taught me how to be with everything and get to a point where I don't really even make up a story about it. Like, it's just happening and I can be okay with that. And then it also taught me how to find my value and my worth and my confidence in myself, not based on all the things that I was producing, right? I learned how to let that story go because I couldn't keep on with that story, right? Whenever someone used to ask me, like, how am I? I'd be like, well, I'm great. I did this, this, and this, and this, right? And it was like so much about who I was so much about what I had done and what I had produced. And in this kind of stripping away, like I say, it forced me to come face to face with, like, okay, where do you do you really believe that you're lovable? Do you really believe that you're valuable? Is there something inside of you that can feel your worth and that depth of who you are that has nothing to do with what you produce? And that took me a long time to get there. And then the third thing is, in this slowing down and in this not racing forward and in this learning that when things don't flow smoothly, there's a reason, and not to push it like I always used to, but to just be like, okay, this isn't working, I'll take a step back. It's like always worked out that it was just like I just was missing a piece of information. That when I got that piece of information, then everything started to flow smoothly, and because I had this piece that I was missing before. Or, you know, something that I really thought was going to be this awesome idea for me turned out to not be what I thought it was. Again, like a missing piece of information. Like, okay, whoa, dodged a bullet, that didn't work out. And so again, like, and then also really being able to slow down, and which then opens me up to learning. It opens me up to intuition. It opens me up to all of this stuff that if I'm just like blazing through my life on production mode all the time, growth is difficult because you're not at a place of receptivity. You see what I'm saying? So this really slowed me down to get to this place of receptivity, which I really believe has so strongly deepened who I am and what I have to offer, right? It's because I haven't been on production mode for the last 3 years that I've received all of this stuff, that when the time is right, I can offer to the world in a really deep, powerful, impactful way because I've lived through it. Right? So if the universe is slowing you down, physically, mentally, emotionally, things aren't working, things aren't moving, it's not because you're broken. It's not because you're doing something wrong, and it's not because you need to push through. Okay? The universe is trying to teach you a plethora of beautiful things, like where your worth and value comes from, like how to be okay with what's arising, like how to really look at what your stories are and what's going on with you on that level, so that you can actually transmute that into a thing that's not painful for you, right? Life is trying to help you not have pain, and it does that by kind of pushing you into the center of it. So that's why I think so many of us resist it, because when we say we want healing, we want this stuff, life always slows us down and we think something's gone wrong, but really that is the absolute most healing thing that could happen. And then lastly, it opens you up to receptivity. It opens you up to everything that you want, to the person that you want to be, the information you want to have. And like I say, it's not even necessarily coming from outside. It's like you are allowing what's always been inside of you to be birthed, right? And that's what happens in this slowdown. So if you can learn to come to respect this slowdown, if you can learn to come to respect and honor and be in what's arising, and don't try and fix yourself, and don't try and make it go away, and don't try and heal, and don't try and do any of these things, just be with it, you might be amazed, right? That what comes into your field and what comes into your awareness and what kind of understandings just come from inside of you. And you don't have to watch videos like this, because you know that it all comes from within you. And then when you do watch videos like this, you'll get stuff, but you'll be like, yes, I know that. She's just saying what I already know. She's just saying what I'm already experiencing. And that's kind of the place you want to be. So that's it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I love hearing from you. Find me on Instagram, Ali_Perception Trainers, Facebook, Perception Trainers. Come join the community on Patreon. We have such a good time in there, and I just love the support that we give each other. And I will see you in the next video.